guys, this is Stormouse03. Welcome to my Evil Within 2 Classic Mode walkthrough. This is part 1, and I'm going to be taking you through to my first save, which I made most of the way through chapter 3. So, talking about this mode, first of all, what is it? So, Classic Mode is, I guess, the Evil Within 2's pseudo Akumu difficulty. They really are not the same at all, but this is the Evil Within 2's hardest mode, I suppose. So what they've done is they've put it on nightmare difficulty, so the hardest difficulty setting, and they've restricted your upgrades, so you have no ability to upgrade your character, and you have no ability to upgrade your weapons. And they have also restricted your saves, so you get 7 saves that you can make at any point where you can use one of the machines to save your game. You can make those at any point during the game. There's no autosaves, so you can't... if you get into a bad spot, you can't just reload your checkpoint. That will not work. You have to go back to the last save that you made. This also means that if your game freezes, like it did for me, you just lose your progress, which I think, and I don't know, I think sucks. I really dislike game modes like this, and I find them tedious and frustrating. And I found this one pretty tedious and frustrating as well. And so I'm hoping that making this guide for you guys helps to relieve some of that for the folks who are watching. So I trimmed out a bunch of cutscenes there because basically it's just the introduction to the game. That's all Chapter 1 is, and now Chapter 1 is over. So we're going to be going into Chapter 2. There's really not a whole lot of threat in this chapter either until we get to the end of it. And so I'm going to use this to just kind of talk about the mode. So, as I was saying, I found this mode pretty frustrating. Not that it was difficult, just that it's annoying. It's annoying when you get into a bad spot, or your game freezes, or you make one mistake, or you're up against an enemy that can do a lot of damage, and it just removes hours of progress. That I find to be not a challenge in the direction that I like a challenge. I much preferred Akumu difficulty on the Evil Within 1, because I thought that was more of a test of skill and learning the game and learning how to defeat the enemies and things like that so that you didn't get hit. I thought that was a much more enjoyable experience for me personally than, the nonsense of having to go back hours, and then, you get back to the point where you died before and you're sitting there and you're nervous and you're like, I don't want to, go back again. And I don't know. Stuff like this is just more nerve-wracking to me than it is challenging. I don't really feel necessarily like I'm getting that much better at the game, so much as getting luckier in some ways. But that's just all personal opinion, and, if you want the achievement or trophy, then you've got to do it, just like I did. So, here we go. This is to hopefully make it a little bit less painful for you guys. So, as I said, there's no upgrades, and there's no autosaves, which means you need to really pick and choose the places where you're saving. Now, obviously, I'm going to show you where I made saves, but where you make saves doesn't necessarily have to be where I made saves. It's just where I'm making saves is a suggestion. There are a couple of spots where I would actually recommend that you maybe save at a slightly different spot than where I did, and I will let you know that. You know, I mean, I wasn't following a guide for this, clearly, because I was making a guide. And so sometimes I would, just get nervous and feel like, oh, I've been playing for a while. I don't want to do this again. There's what I remember to be a tricky section coming up. And so I want to make sure that I'm safe and I've saved my progress. And that's kind of how I played through this mode. I wanted to err on the side of not losing too much time rather than saving after something difficult, if that makes sense. So you kind of have, I'm thinking, two ways of doing this mode. You can either save after you've done something difficult so that you don't have to do that difficult thing again, or you can save before the difficult thing, which means if you die later, if you die to the difficult thing, then you don't lose very much progress. You don't lose a lot of time. It allows you to go back and redo that section, which is kind of what I felt like. I did not mind doing something that was difficult over again, like a boss fight or a tricky section of the level. I did not mind repeating that because I had confidence that I could make it through. Right here, just make sure you follow my path in this room. This is really one of the only spots in this level that you can die, and so you really want to just make sure that you hide around the side of that couch and let the guy move past you and go through the door, and that's how you get through there. It shouldn't be too tricky for you. Just, do what I did, but he can insta-kill you, so be careful of that. Anyway, as I was saying about my save style, or my style of playing through the game, so I definitely erred on the side of saving myself the time of going back than instead of saving myself the difficulty of doing like a boss fight or something. So I usually chose to save before a boss fight or before a part that I knew that I might struggle with, instead of trying to push through a hard part and then save after I was done. So that was kind of my strategy for this. Something that folks can do if they don't want to repeat too many boss fights and things is to just save afterwards. Save right after the boss fight instead of saving before like I do. It runs the risk of you losing your progress and having to go back, to the section all the way up to the boss fight and the boss fight again. But then, after you've saved, you make sure that you don't ever have to do that boss fight again, right? So, you pick and choose what feels right for you. This way of playing is what felt right for me. And so that is what you're going to see. So you go back and forth in this room a couple of times, and we're getting to the part where we're going to need to run for our lives, and that is a section where you do want to be careful. So we've moved past the parts that are, just kind of walking through rooms and stuff. And now we're on to a little bit of action. So when you interact with this photo, you're going to have the first, I guess, major boss character come through this window at you. And I liked the enemy design on this character, by the way. You want to back up, you want to turn around and move. I like to make a circle around that stuff in the middle, that debris, I guess. And then you just want to push in your left stick to run, or whatever configuration you've got set up. This is just kind of a running tutorial. You push A as you run towards something in order to vault over it. And then we're going to climb up this ladder. So as long as you're running pretty much the whole way there, you should be fine. You do want to keep an eye on your sprint meter to make sure you don't run out. So if it looks like it's getting red and it's about to run out, you can click in the stick again, and that will make it so that it does not, you know, make you kind of out of breath and running slower. As you move forward here, you want to be prepared to move back really fast as soon as you see our poor little rat friend get sawn into. You want to be pulling back so that that doesn't hurt you. And then we're going to drop through here back into the non-vent area, back into the room. And so once again, we're going to get chased. You just want to run forward, and then you're going to have a little quick time event here. None of this should be too challenging. This is all fairly scripted, kind of tutorial-like stuff here. So we're tapping A to pull out the knife, and then I believe at this point, like, I'm pushing forward and, you know, pushing the sprint button and everything, but I think this is just a cutscene. So I think I actually tested it, and after you press A to pull the knife out, that you don't have any control after that. Like, it just does what it does. So this is now introducing you to the health regeneration. You do not regenerate very much health, and I would suggest that you want to be full health as often as possible. You're going to find a syringe on this table, and you're going to find a collectible in this room, which I'm not going to pick up because I'm not really picking up collectibles on this run. So for those of you who want a guide for, you know, all the weapons and all the collectibles and all of that stuff, I am going to be doing a full walkthrough for all of the other achievements or trophies on this game. After I do this, I decided to do my classic mode guide first because I figured this was the thing that people would need the most help with. I'm going to be showing you where to find all but one of the keys. Had I realized that I was going to get every single one of the keys other than the one, I would have probably gone ahead and gotten it just to show you all of them. But I wasn't sure I was going to do that at first, and the one that I decided to skip was in Chapter 3. So I'll point out where that is when we get there. We will be getting there shortly. So you want to pick up as much stuff as you can throughout these levels. You can't upgrade your weapons, but what you can do is craft items. And in particular, the crafting of the health items is really cool because you can do that on the fly and it does not consume any more resources than it would at a workbench. That is only for the health items, not for the ammunition. The ammunition you want to try to craft at a workbench. Once you go through this door, you're going to be face to face with our first enemy. And you want to, well, there's a little cutscene that I trimmed out, but after that you want to just shoot her in the face. And a few shots in the face should take her out. So enemies are not going to drop any of the green gel, because you aren't going to be able to upgrade, but they will sometimes drop things like gunpowder or ammunition that you can pick up. So you do want to check the bodies. When you open this door, you're going to have another enemy here. And what I like to do to deal with this person is kind of run around, get them to chase you, and then run back out the door. Any enemies, especially here at the beginning, that you can just avoid, run away from, not have to expend resources on, I think that's the right choice. Because if you are expending any of your bullets, or if you're getting close enough to them to try to melee them, which I would not recommend, unless you're sneak killing them, it's kind of a waste of resources, because like I said, sometimes they will give you things like gunpowder and stuff like that, but a lot of the time they just don't give you anything. And so if you can avoid spending the bullets to kill something, then I feel like that's always preferable to spending resources to kill something and then not knowing if you're going to get something back from that. So that is a tip there. Another thing that you definitely want to try to do is stealth. Stealth as much as you can, particularly here at the beginning where resources are pretty scarce. I'm going to be doing a lot of sneaking in Chapter 3, and that's why it takes a long time. I'm also going to be doing a lot of collecting stuff in Chapter 3, because I would say Chapter 3 is your biggest open area, and you have a lot of opportunity to get a lot of items and different weapons and things of that nature. And so I think it's beneficial to do as much of that collecting as possible, particularly here at the beginning. There are a couple more open-ish sequences that you can get some good stuff during, but those are a little bit later on. So doing this stuff on Chapter 3, while not strictly 100% necessary, will set you up for having an easier time throughout the rest of the game, because you'll have a lot more things to craft ammunition and healing items, and you'll just have a bigger arsenal of weapons to choose from. So with these enemies, they like to do this pattern where they look left and right, and then they look left and right again, and then they look left and right again, and then they turn around. And you just want to be careful with them. If you are crouched and sneaking, they usually will not turn around. In a way that is outside of their pattern. So like they generally do the thing that you saw that woman do, where she looked left and right and left and right and left and right. So it gives you a pretty large window to sneak kill a lot of these enemies. There are some cases where that is not true. But a lot of times they do telegraph their patterns pretty well. And so stealth is pretty powerful, because on most enemies it is a one hit kill, which is very good. So I'm going to go around here. I'm going to pick up the few items that are around, and I'm not going to worry about the enemies that are over to my right. There's a large group of them kind of feasting on dead bodies and things, and I am not going to mess with that, because while you probably can go around that area and sneak kill most of them and take them out, I just don't think that it's worth it because there's not a whole lot of items and stuff over there. So it's not worth putting yourself at risk.
Hopefully that'll hold.
You want to check drawers and things. A lot of times drawers don't have stuff in them, but sometimes the drawers do, like that one right there. Oftentimes drawers had weapon parts in them, and that's why a lot of the drawers are empty in this playthrough, because they don't give you weapon parts, because you can't use weapon parts, which is something that I really liked about this, is that it doesn't give you stuff that you can't use, which is nice. It doesn't give you green gel, and it doesn't give you weapon parts because you can't do any of those things, and so they tend to give you either nothing or gunpowder or, you know, crafting items, things that you can use. So I think that's pretty cool. We are now into chapter 3. I trimmed out most of that cutscene there, and it gives you this little introduction to the workbench, and I'm just going to show you guys really quickly that the upgrade system is turned off. Like, you can't, it's just not even available. But you can create ammunition for your weapons, which is pretty cool. There's also a coffee pot here, which I saved my syringe from the beginning because I knew that there was going to be this coffee pot here. It will refill your entire bar of health. And so these coffee pots, they take a while to refill, so you can't abuse them. You know, you can't just come back every time you're injured or something and use them, but they are nice to be able to save some of your syringes for times when those coffee pots are not available. So just be aware of those. There's usually one in every safe house. And if you're moving from one safe house to the other, there's usually going to be one that is filled up that you can access, which is pretty cool. And so now we're on to the more open world section of the game. And I'm going to show you a path through this area, grabbing the vast majority of the items and resources and things on this level. At least the things that I think are worth picking up. So there's a church there that I was in front of. Well, here's a statue. This is the first key right on this bench here. But there was a church there in front of me when I started running this way. That church is where the key is that I do not pick up. And that's the only key that I don't get in the whole playthrough. And like I said, if I'd have realized when I started that I was going to end up getting every single other key, then I would have gotten that one. But as it was, I knew that this level was going to be long and kind of arduous. And when you go into that church, you get ambushed by 3 or 4 enemies. And I felt like that just puts you in a bad spot. You're in an enclosed space with several enemies, and right here at the beginning, when you just don't have a lot of different ways to deal with those enemies, it's not a good time. And so I chose to avoid that one for that reason, because honestly, you know, to me, it's not particularly worth it. Just to get through the game. Now, if you wanted to get all the keys on this playthrough, there will be a statue behind the pulpit, and you smash that, and that's where that key is. So if you're looking to get all of the keys, that should be the only one that I don't show you how to get. Just be warned that, you know, you are going to be faced off with several enemies in there. But what you can do, probably, I haven't tested this out, so someone can let me know whether this works or whether I'm incorrect. But what you can probably do is run back out of the church and try to, take them out one by one, or get them to return to kind of a searching pattern so that you can maybe stealth kill some of them, that kind of thing. So we picked up the broken sniper rifle right there, and it'll take us a little while to find the other piece to fix it. It's at the other side of the level, but we will be fixing the sniper rifle. The sniper rifle is very, very good, and you definitely want to have it for later on in the game. And so we're headed up this street, picking up some things along the way. Once you get about right here, you want to crouch because, as you can see, there are enemies milling about. And my brain is currently searching for the word for these enemies. I know that they were called haunted in the first Evil Within, and I guess that's what they're called here as well. But I'm going to call them haunted. They're just your standard enemy dudes. There probably is a different name for them because, horror games like to give names to enemies that they never really tell you during the course of the game. So this is a little resonance, residual memories for that rogue agent, or rogue agent's mission. Rogue Signal, that's what it's called. And that is not necessarily a side mission that I'm going to be completing, but it is something that kind of shows you some spots where there's some caches of decent stuff. So actually, I do think I complete that mission now that I'm thinking about it. So there's going to be a guy that comes out right there. And for whatever reason, he's decided that he was just going to see me. Because he's mean. I'm not quite sure how he saw me right then. Because I was pretty far back away from him. But he did. But if you run far enough away, you'll get out of his, I guess, radius of following. You'll move out of the point where he's going to follow you. His radius of following. I don't know. his little detection area. And he'll move back and get back on pattern. And if you kind of move up here and wait right here, he'll move past you. Now, he saw me when I was 6 miles away, but he didn't see me when I was right there, which makes no sense to me. I guess his peripheral vision is... He can't really see up close. But his peripheral vision is great for long distances. And so moving around this area, you just want to keep your eyes on these people right here. And then we're going to sneak kill this guy. And then we're going to sneak kill this guy. They should be... I'm not exactly sure what is causing them to, go all nuts holding their head and stuff, but they did not like something that was going on. And then after you've successfully dealt with those 3 enemies, you can pick up the items that are in these crates. And so I would definitely recommend when you can to scour the areas, smash all the crates. You're not going to have exactly the same stuff that I have because it's a little bit random what you get. Like you see, I've gotten a couple of smoke powders and quite a bit of gunpowder, but you should be relatively on par with what I'm getting out of these crates. Some of them will have nothing, some of them will have gunpowder, and some of them will have things like smoke powder, or very rarely they'll have bullets. So there's a couple of handgun bullets that you can pick up off of that body there. And we're going to head back now and grab the Warden crossbow, which is very, very, very important because the crossbow is as it was in the first game, a really good item. Really good weapon. And so it gives you a little bit of a tutorial there. And it comes loaded with one shock bolt. And so this is a little introduction to the bolts. And you should have been a little faster than I was with shooting this bolt into the water, and you could have gotten both of these people in one go. But I decided to derp around because sometimes I'm stupid and fail at doing things. And I only ended up getting one of them. And so that's unfortunate. And a little bit of a waste, but it's okay. As long as you're alive and you come out with the items, you're winning. And so the next thing that I'm going to show you to do is to get a couple of things out of these trains. So right here, you want to be careful. Because when you open this door, you're going to get attacked by an enemy, and they're going to be very, very close to you. And so you want to deal with them. And I used the axe there. For whatever reason, the axe was not a one-hit kill on this guy, which... The axes in this game are so much less powerful than they were in the original Evil Within. In the original Evil Within, like, you could kill a keeper, which is a boss, with an axe. In this game, you can't even kill a regular enemy with an axe. And that's because they have these melee upgrade things that make them more powerful. But you can't use that on this difficulty, so it just, I don't know. It pisses me off how the axes are so nerfed on this one, but it is what it is, and we have to deal with it. So we came down to the end of this to get that handgun pouch upgrade. These pouch upgrades are really, really helpful because they just allow you to have more ammunition stocked, which is going to be very useful throughout the game. So I'm going to show you where to get the vast majority of those pouches. When you walk through that tripwire, it's going to do this little slow motion thing, and you're going to have an enemy here to kill. And you just want to take her out while she's running through the slow-mo. And then you probably saw this when I ran back here before. But there is a statue behind this car right here. that has a key. And that's going to be key number 2. There are a few decent items in these train cars. There's also several enemies in the train cars, and so it's your choice whether or not you want to risk going into them or not. Because, like I said, there's a decent amount of reward for going into them, but there's also several enemies to deal with, and the resources and health that you expend going in there might not be worth it, and that is why I chose to avoid them. But so that you're aware, there are some items and things in those trains, should you choose to want to get them. In this area, there is going to be an enemy that has another pistol. And I don't think I ever used this pistol because I don't like it. It's the laser sight pistol. And really the only reason to get it is to have extra ammunition. So if you want to have the extra ammo, just in case, it's an extra 6 shots. But like I said, I don't like that pistol. I never used that pistol, and I wasn't bothered with having the extra shots. And so I did not worry about getting it right there. But there was a body over in the back portion of that has that pistol on it. The enemy will hurt you a little bit as you try to take the weapon. And you'll go into this little quick time thing where it hurts you a little bit, but you kill it and you get the gun. But for me, it's not worth it because I don't like the pistol. But if you like the pistol, go ahead and grab it. There is our 3rd key, which is awesome. And we're now going to head down this street and grab a couple of other items. Things like that truck right there. Do not go near it. Don't even bother with it because it's just filled with enemies and there's really not a lot of good stuff in there. There are also some enemies around who are, kind of like this dude in front of us right here. They're corpses. You don't want to mess with them because if you hit them or if you make too much noise beside them or whatnot, they will get up. And so you want to try to give things like that a wide berth because you don't want to end up fighting more enemies than you really need to. So this chapter is slow going, guys, and I do apologize for that for people who just want, I want the quickest and easiest way to get through the game. And I feel like quickest and easiest is not really possible. There's the fastest and there's the easiest. And the easiest isn't the fastest. I am showing you what I think is the easiest way to get through, which is making sure that you have enough stock of equipment to be able to have an easier time playing through. But it's certainly not fast. getting through all of this stuff. Because in sections like this, it is like this sort of open landscape of houses and crates and sheds and trees and things like that, and you don't necessarily have to take the exact same path that I'm taking to get through here either. If you take a different path, you're going to be met with a slightly different setup of enemies, because depending upon which way you come to certain areas, the enemies will be laid out slightly differently. And so if you want things to play out like they're playing out for me, you need to pretty much follow the path that I take. Otherwise, you run the risk of having something random happen, because while the enemies here are pretty scripted, that there is a degree of randomness to them. And so you want to take note of that. Like, if an enemy does not do exactly what they do on my game, that probably will happen rarely, but it might happen. And that's just because these enemies are not necessarily 100% on a script. So there's a witch right here. Banshee witch, and she just did not want to turn around. So I moved away from her. I think if you touch that herb back there, those people get up. So not worth it. And now the witches, the screamers, they take more damage than the regular enemies, and they are mean, those witch characters, because they are very fast and they do quite a lot of damage. So you want to be very, very careful with them, particularly at this stage of the game. Definitely avoid them where you can, and be very careful with them when you have to engage with them. 2 sneak kills, 2 stabs, 2 sneak attacks will kill a witch. And so a really good strategy with them, and something that you'll see me do later on, is to sneak up and stab them once, run away, get them to move back to their pattern, and then sneak up to them and stab them a second time. And that is a really effective way of dealing with them without leaving yourself too exposed and without consuming any of your resources, which is basically the best case scenario. Anything that you can kill here without consuming resources and without getting hurt is the best thing that you can hope for. So we've made a complete circle at this point. Right now we are back at the point where we kind of started. You want to be careful of this person dragging this body. Because I think it's when you get to this truck, there's a certain point there that triggers that enemy to start walking forward, because they were not spawned into the level when we first started, or when we walked through that way. like they weren't walking behind us. They only spawned in when we hit the like little spawn point, which was up here.
Those things are piling corpses up here. But why?
And so there should be an axe in this pile of corpses, which is very helpful. We're definitely going to be using that here in a second. And the axes are strategic because something else that you can do with an axe is, or another way to take out the witches rather, is if you sneak attack them and then hit them with an axe, that will kill them. So while the axe itself is not a one-hit kill and the sneak attack itself is not a one-hit kill, the combination of the two does kill one of those ladies, and it takes her out very effectively. And in situations where you can't really run away or you don't want to run away and try to lose her and get the two sneak attacks, it's very helpful to have one of these axes because then you can just sneak, axe, done. Which is very nice. So in this house right here, there is a trapdoor where you can go down this ladder and into an area with a computer that you use to access another section of the world. So this world is really weird in that a lot of the different areas are not connected. And they're connected through these terminals. And so it's like the sections of the world are split up on their own separate little islands or servers, I guess you would say, since this is on, all of this stuff is basically a bunch of brains hooked up to a computer. And so it's like the servers are not connected in a physical sense in terms of the physical area of the world. And so there's this thing called the marrow that kind of connects the different islands, if you will, of the world. And so there are different access points to the marrow, and this is one of them. And so this one's pretty important. You get some pretty good stuff down here. So I would definitely recommend you coming down here to do this. But the reason why we didn't do this first is I wanted to be a little bit more stocked in terms of ammunition because there are a few enemies down here that you're going to have to deal with. So you want to have an axe, probably, and you want to have some bullets in your guns, just in case things go poorly. So there will be a witch up here. Screaming Banshee Witch. And so you just want to give her some room because you definitely don't want her to see you as she's pacing back and forth here. Because you want to try to deal with her like I was talking about just a second ago. You want to try to sneak attack and then axe this woman. And so she'll scare you because she'll do the little thing where she goes and like moves back and forth like she knows that something's there, but she doesn't know. She doesn't know that you're there. As long as you stay hidden, she doesn't know. This is just her pattern. And she really irritated me right here because she would not freaking turn around. And I don't know whether like she got stuck or whether her pattern is just really long or right here for whatever reason. I don't know. But it's like she got stuck in that spot right there going, hey, hey, I know you're there. I see you. Dormouse, you're trying to make a guide? Well, screw you, because I'm just going to like stand here for 16 minutes. And then she finally moved. So I don't know what that was about. It pissed me off a little bit. But now she seems to be back on her regularly scheduled course. So you just want to wait for her to fully turn around and start moving away, and then we're gonna move up behind her and we're gonna sneak stab her, and then you want to be like immediately pushing your trigger to axe her in the face. Because those little attacks with that knife hurt. They hurt really, really badly, and you don't want to get caught in that. So usually I kind of pull back on my stick just a little bit at first so that you make sure you don't get caught in her swings. And then immediately just be like slamming on that right trigger to axe her in the face. And you don't want to pull too far back away from her because you really don't want to miss with that axe swing, because the recovery from swinging the axe to be able to swing it again, you can get into some real trouble if you miss with the swing. Because as fast as especially those ladies are, but pretty much all the enemies in this game can put some hurting on you, you know? So whenever you're using that strategy to axe something, you want to be careful, and you want to be sure it's going to hit. So we unlock this door, and then we're going to reap our reward here. So there were a couple of little items, but this is the prize that we came down here for. It is the sawed-off shotgun, and this is the shotgun that I would recommend you use during the game. There are a couple of other shotguns, but for my money, this one is the best one, because it's got good knockdown power, and it's got a pretty decent clip on it, and it's got fairly decent range. So for other folks, they might prefer a different one, but this is the one that I enjoyed. So this lady is gonna finally move away. And then we can stab her. So she was the corpse in the corner, straight in front of us. She was a corpse, and she decided to get up. A lot of times, if you don't mess with the corpses, they don't stand up. But in some cases, they do, and that was one of those cases. Now, getting out of here. You want to be careful coming out of this room, because there are going to be a couple of regular enemies that are going to come out of the elevator. They're going to come out of the elevator right there. And now, you could just run past these dudes and run to the exit. But there is a statue with a key in that elevator, and I want it. So instead of running away, what I'm going to do is kill these guys. And now the patterns that they're on are irritating, because that guy right there, you can get him, but his buddy is on a pattern such that he sees you when you move, and he saw me just then, and it sucked. So sneak killing those guys is somewhat annoying, but the strategy for this room is exactly what I just did. Run back into this other room, run into this little tunnel, and they cannot get you in there because they can't follow you into the tunnels. So once you move into there, you're pretty safe, and then you can come back out and catch them returning to their patterns. And so for these two, it's just, I think, a frustrating fact of life that one of them is probably going to see you as you try to kill the other, and it's just how it's going to be, unfortunately. But you kill one, you run away from the other one, you run back to your little hidey hole of safety, and shouldn't be too much issue. And then with one of them dead, it's much easier to deal with his partner. These columns are pretty decent cover. The only issue with them is it's sometimes hard to see around to your left. And so here we go. He's now turned around, and we're gonna kill him, and now we can get the key out of the elevator, which is what we wanted. So, statue right there in the corner, and there is key number 4, which is excellent. And we're now done in this section of the Marrow and can head back up to the main street of the game and continue on collecting. So I'll talk briefly about a couple of things. So there's a section, there are 3 sections throughout the game where you can kind of revisit the Beacon Hospital and have this little sequence with a lady who is chasing you, and you have to sneak around and escape the mental hospital, and it's sort of about Sebastian overcoming his fears. I would recommend that you do not do any of those things, because that lady is mean. She is a one-hit kill. If she grabs you, you're dead. Done. No second chances. And so while the first 2 sequences are not that difficult, the third sequence I found to be pretty frustrating. And in all of them, there's just a high risk for not a lot of reward. What you get after you do all 3 of those sequences is Sebastian's revolver. And it's fine. It's a weapon. It's an extra few shots, but it's nothing like super powerful that you're really gonna miss. And so while that's necessary for getting all the weapons, for an achievement to do that, I would definitely recommend doing all of that stuff in your other playthrough. And And like I said, I'm gonna have a guide for all of that stuff, all of the collectibles, all of the weapons, all of that good stuff, all of the miscellaneous achievements and trophies. I will have a walkthrough for that as well. But I wanted to get classic mode out, even though it's kind of the incorrect order, because you can't do classic mode until you've played through the game once. So probably should have said that at the beginning, and I'll put it in the description of the video. But you unlock classic mode by playing through the game on any of the other difficulties. So you can play through on easy, normal, or nightmare. Does not matter. I think it's casual, survival, or nightmare, because they don't name any of their difficulties like regular people. So that lady turned around. That is really irritating. Because she turned around, then there was another one that spawned in. That one is throwing axes, which really hurt. And so I got myself into a really bad spot there, because for whatever reason, she turned around. She was like at the very end of her pattern and decided to turn around on me and screwed me. And so now they're chasing me down the street. And I'm just trying to put anything between me and them and run sort of zigzaggy, because I don't want to get hit by another one of those axes. But once you get back to the safe house, you're safe. And at this moment, I believe I went back and used the coffee machine, because it had some coffee ready for me again, which is very nice. So like I said, these coffee machines won't have coffee, you know, back to back to back all the time, but they do refill every now and again, and it's super helpful in spots like that. So, yeah, talking about that situation right there, you need to be prepared for certain things like that, because sometimes stuff like that just happens. You know, like you're going through, you're doing it exactly the way that you are supposed to be doing it. You know, you're sneaking, you're stealthing, you're trying to stay out of the radar of enemies, and all of a sudden one just turns around when it feels like they probably shouldn't, and you just get into a bad situation. And so you need to just be able to think about what is my exit strategy in a lot of these places, because I think oftentimes if you ever get into a situation like that where you're surprised by an enemy and they do something that you didn't expect for them to do, run away. That is my best advice to you, is run away. Try to get far enough away from that enemy so that they stop chasing you, and move back to their either original pattern, or as in the case of those two lovely individuals, they just like despawned off the face of existence as far as I can tell. This witch right here, I threw that bottle to get her to move. And then she turned around faster than I thought that she was going to. And then she punished me for it. So I'm going to run away from her. And she doesn't chase very far, that witch. So she still knows where I am, because I did not keep running away like I should have. So she shouldn't chase you very far, this witch. But she did. Because I kept thinking that I was out of her range, but I wasn't. And what actually ended up happening was this was a good thing because I was able to get back over here. Because she chases you, but she doesn't chase you that fast. So I was able to get back to where I wanted to be and pick up that handgun ammo pouch without her hurting me again. So you can do that with her. You can also do what I was trying to do, which is sneak up behind her, stab her, run away, and then come back and stab her again. So you can deal with her in either of those ways. But yeah, you just have to adapt, folks. It's the unfortunate nature of something like this where everything isn't 100% scripted and you do have a little bit more of an open space. That sometimes, spawns just happen, random things happen. Enemies have a wider radius of seeing you than you think that they do, etc., etc. When you walk into that wire, it's going to spawn in another one of these slow-mo areas, and it's going to spawn in a witch. And you want to move away a lot quicker than I did, because got real lucky that I didn't get hit just there. So move away from her faster. But this is the cheese spot right here. So if you come down this ladder, she like somehow doesn't realize that you're down here. And then you can go back up and you can stab her. And it rocks. And then you want to move and go right back down the ladder. And she'll lose you again. And then you can go back up and stab her a second time. And it's awesome. Like, do not waste any bullets on her like I did. Definitely do this instead. Because it saves you ammunition. And it's safer than getting in her face and trying to shoot her and all that nonsense while she was slow mode. So now that she's dealt with, we can head around and grab what's up here, which I think is worth it because it's a shotgun ammo pouch. And having more shotgun ammo is always better than having less shotgun ammo. As shocking as that revelation might be. So there's bullets, and then there's our shotgun ammo pouch. And there's also a medical syringe in there. So that's very nice. And then you can hop off of the balcony there without getting injured, which is very nice. And then you don't have to walk back through the area where that witch is probably patrolling once again. So this dumpster here. If anybody knows the purpose of that dumpster, please let me know. I mean, you move it and then there's that hole in the fence that you can go through, but the purpose of that is beyond me. I mean, yeah. I don't know, guys. I thought that maybe you could get up on top of it or something like that, but it doesn't seem like you can. So I don't know. If someone has figured out what is the purpose of that thing that you can move other than opening the hole in the gate, please do let me know. So the enemies here. There are several of them. There is a statue in the fence there that I was looking at. But you do want to be careful because there are a lot of enemies around this area. and you don't want to go up to that and grab that until they have sort of moved on their way. So I chose to grab that particular key after I saved. At this point, we've gotten the majority of the things on this level that we're going to be picking up. There are a couple more keys, and then there's the section at the end where it's going to be the kind of main quest bit, which is a little bit more difficult. There are a couple of more areas, a couple more areas where we're going to be picking up some items in the next part of this walkthrough. But this is a lot of chapter 3 done. And I know that it was long and it was probably painful and somewhat tedious, but I think it is helpful to get all of the items that we got. And right now I'm going to waste like 70,000 bullets on this dude because what I was trying to do was shoot his legs so that he fell over, and that did not work at all. So what you should do instead of shooting him with the pistol is just pull out your shotgun. You have a couple of shells. You should just pull that out and shoot him with it. And if you did that to begin with, you would have only wasted one shotgun shell because you probably would knock him down and then you can go stomp his head. As it happened, it only took the one shot because he was already injured a bit. And then this guy heard us, and I proceed to try to shoot him to make him drop his Molotov, and miss a bunch of times and waste all of my pistol shots, and he never drops the darn thing. And then Sebastian curses and Dormouse cursed, and then just ran to the safe house. So yeah, I don't know why that guy decided that he was going to hear us, but he did. He was mean. I shouldn't have used that syringe that I used before. I should have saved that and just used this coffee pot, but I was in the middle of a panic mode right there because the guy didn't do what I wanted him to do, and things didn't go very well there toward the end of this little section, and that probably has something to do with my decision to go ahead and make my first save here, because this level is long, it's boring, it's tedious, it's irritating. There's lots of things that can go wrong just because it's a little bit more random than some of the more scripted corridor areas of the game. And so that is why I chose to just go ahead and make my save here, because I had gotten a lot of the things that I wanted to do in this level done, and I didn't want to do it again. I'd been playing for probably about an hour and a half, including all of the cutscenes and things that I trimmed out. It might not have been quite that long. It might have been more like an hour and 20 minutes or so. And I did not want to go through the tedious first sections of this game, because nothing frustrates me more than, me personally, nothing frustrates me more than having to go back through tedious sections where, it's not all that difficult, but you just can't skip these parts. Like chapters 1 and 2, there was really not a whole lot to those chapters, but you still have to play back through them if you die in chapter 3. And so since I knew that some more difficult sections were coming up in chapter 3, I decided that I did not want to have to go back through the tedious first couple of chapters and through all of the collecting crap that I just did in chapter 3. And so that is why I decided to make my save here. If you are, I guess, more patient than I am with having to backtrack and redo easy-ish stuff, I would say try to hold out a little bit longer, either save after chapter 3 or after you've done a couple more things in chapter 3, because there are a couple more things that I'm going to show you to collect. There's the sniper rifle parts to fix that. There's a couple more statues and a couple more items. So there is still a little bit to do in chapter 3, so you could save a little bit later than I do if you want to, but this was the point where my patience ran out and I decided to make my save. So there you go. That is the first part of classic mode done. Thank you guys for watching. I hope that this has been helpful to you, and I will see you in part 2.